We're all feeling that familiar squeeze at the grocery store or the gas pump. Affordability has become the biggest driver of anxiety in America today, and we usually point fingers at whichever political party is sitting in the White House. But pointing fingers misses the reality shifting beneath our feet. We've talked ourselves into a collective delusion. We believe we can run an economy of infinite growth entirely on software, AI algorithms, and financial engineering. We treat the modern world as something weightless. That belief is a historical hangover. For decades, we lived in a true era of abundance. Cheap, plentiful oil and easily accessible physical resources built a country that felt invincible. During that prosperous stretch, we made a remarkably arrogant choice. We decided that digging holes in the earth was immoral. So we shipped our industrial grit and physical supply chains overseas to places like China, allowing us to feel pure at home while others did the dirty work. Here is the reality check. The metaphorical buffalo are gone. The high-grade ores are tapped out. We have officially crossed the threshold into the trailing side of abundance, and technology can no longer hide the fact that the physical cupboards are emptying. This diagram reveals our decline as a structured collapse, far more systemic than simple political noise. It's a failure that stacks from the foundation of the physical layer, through the financial system, and finally into the societal layer at the top. Let's start at that physical bedrock. We are leaving behind the era of fluid energy, like the oil pumped from these massive offshore rigs. Our future depends on solid energy. Building wind grids and electric vehicles require staggering amounts of heavy physical materials, like copper, cobalt, and lithium. We like to think of AI data centers as clean virtual clouds. In reality, they are massive, mineral-dense power plants. Every new server rack and cooling system demands an enormous extraction of physical resources from the earth. But high-grade ores are gone. We scoured deep pits like this, chasing diminishing returns on critical metals, while our domestic supply chains atrophy. Unable to extract what we need, we rely on foreign adversaries for materials to build our technology, grids, and military hardware. We outsourced our physical grit, and the bill is coming due. We are now trapped in an era of global resource wars, fighting for control over supply chains that we abandoned decades ago. When physical resources become scarce, the stress travels directly up the stack to our financial system. As raw materials get harder to pull from the ground, the cost to manufacture and transport every physical good you buy rises in lockstep. Facing this reality requires hard trade-offs. Instead of making them, our government has opted to print money to cover the gap. We have built our standard of living on a credit card that is past due, resulting in a national debt pushing $40 trillion. This hits the middle class with a brutal blow. You get real-time inflation acting as a regressive tax on your savings, while our 50-year monopoly on the petrodollar has collapsed. Global blocs are now organizing to actively step away from the US dollar. America's financial dominance is cracking. We are attempting to cover heavy, physical shortages with increasingly worthless fiat paper, and the rest of the world has stopped believing the myth. That financial decay eventually rots the top of the stack, our society. We are developing a third world cancer, a two-track system where the top 1% hoards half of the total wealth, while the middle class is swallowed by the chasm of the poverty line. The data proves how deep this decay goes. If you are in the bottom quartile of earners in America today, you actually face a lower life expectancy than the average citizen walking the streets in Costa Rica or Panama. At the exact same time, artificial intelligence is acting like a scalpel. Without an equity stake for everyday Americans, AI exists primarily to eliminate working-class jobs and funnel even more unimaginable wealth directly to a few elite techno-kings. Our democracy was designed to leash monopolies and control this kind of power. It has failed. Instead of having adults in the room to fix these structural deficits, we are ruled by chaos, identity politics, and leaders who only know how to double down on distraction and division. This chaotic political theater is the ultimate symptom of our collapse. We have built a system where justice is bought, and raw power has entirely smashed compassion for our fellow citizens. Looking at the completed architecture, the logic is unavoidable. Physical resource scarcity at the bedrock cracks the financial system, which ultimately shatters the societal layer at the very top. You cannot fix a broken copper mine with a software update. No amount of AI algorithms, money printing, or clever code can magically replenish the depleted resources required to maintain our current standard of living. We have to drop the illusion of control. We need to step away from this desperate Malthusian scramble where we fight one another for the remaining scraps of planetary resources just to keep our pile of stuff from shrinking. If our technology cannot magically grow more copper, our only way to flourish is to revalue our time and our neighbor. We have to learn to find meaning in one another rather than in the material goods we can no longer afford to extract. Surviving the trailing side of abundance means choosing a different kind of wealth, learning to flourish with less stuff and more love for the people right in front of us.